So, one line. Like 3K. I gotta be quiet now. I got lit.
Okay, um, thank you everyone for spending your Friday night here with me, learning about how to be a kick-ass EP manager. So, just some of the things that we're going to cover during this presentation is going to obviously be how to manage an EP throughout their entire customer flow. And then providing excellent customer service. And in this section, I'm going to talk about some tips to improve your conversion rates and processing times, things that you can do as an EP manager or as a VP to make sure your EPs go through the pipeline quickly, efficiently, and that they're happy customers. So you probably all have seen this graphic before, but what I wanted to do throughout this call was to go through each phase, talk about what's happening on the customer or the EP side of things, talk about their needs, and then talk about how we as EP managers are going to address their needs and take them forward to the next step. So I'm going to want to provide two of the perspectives so y'all really get a view for what the entire process looks like in and out. So the attraction phase, the EP is still not an EP. They're actually still a stranger, maybe a visitor at your tabling or your info session or your lecture shout out, but they don't really know anything about ISIC, or maybe they've heard about it, but they still don't really know about the projects that your LC is promoting, and they're curious to know more. So what are their needs? They obviously want to find happiness and safety, but a really cool opportunity to spend their summer, their semester working, volunteering abroad somewhere. And then they also need to understand and really trust ISIC. Everyone knows about study abroad. ISIC is sometimes what we say is our campus's best kept secret. Obviously, we want to change that and be as big of an organization as possible, but there's still a lot of understanding that people have about ISIC that's lacking. So it's our job to explain to them ISIC's mission and Global Volunteer and the project that we're specifically promoting. So even on that side, let's talk about it from the customer's experience. Say they show up at your tabling event or your info session. And ideally, what you want to be able to do is get them to open on the spot there. So when they're visiting, get them to open an opportunities portal. Now, this is how you get them to the consideration phase, right? You want to make sure that you are nurturing that lead so that they also don't just open, but they apply. So we'll talk about more of this in depth as we go through the next couple of slides, but I just wanted to kind of provide that kind of example. So for consideration, that customer is now a lead, or that potential EP is a lead. And what happens here is that you need to be, doing expectation setting and aligning their needs with what ISIC can provide them. They also need to be deciding on the opportunities. Ideally, each LC in the US, I believe right now, only has one entity partner unless you're tier 2. And so you should only have one or less than a handful of projects that you're promoting. So this decision shouldn't be that hard if you've been marketing your projects. Don't market just ISIC and that you can go abroad anywhere that you want. Market your specific projects, and then this part of the customer flow should be pretty easy for them because they either only have one option, that's what attracted them to your table in the first place, or they have very few options and it's not going to be hard for them to weigh the pros and cons of what will fulfill their needs best. So, they have the opportunities in front of them, they're deciding what are their needs. Well, once they've decided, they need to understand what the next steps are. Because deciding, honestly, is the easiest thing that they're going to go through right now, because the rest of the journey requires a lot of, logistics and preparation and paperwork and, understanding the culture and preparing to go abroad. They also need to have a very fast response from ISIC because there's so much that still needs to happen for them to actually go abroad. You need to have a fast response time to talk to your EP, or else they're going to start finding opportunities that aren't ISIC related and just jump on that opportunity. Every second that you're not responding to an ISIC an EP, they could be finding out about a new opportunity and take on that because they just had better customer service there. So EP management isn't just let's get you to this country abroad. It's you have to provide that good customer service that a lot of other places, maybe like when you're shopping and you have like your own person following you around. That's the kind of customer service they're looking for. So value delivery, this is, that lead, that EP is now a customer. They've decided on their exchange and they have been interviewed and accepted. They've paid. So now it's time to prepare them for this challenging experience that they have abroad. So, ISIC is a leadership development platform, and we really do focus on the leadership development model and also this inner and outer journey that this EP will encounter as they're abroad. So their needs here are that they need clear support and communication, and they really need to understand their job description and their impact. So the first part, clear support and communication, that's not just you. They also need that from the ISIC entity abroad. And you might be like, well, if they're not responding quickly enough, that's not my problem. But the thing is, it is. You have some control over that LC's abroad response rate. If they're not doing well, make sure you're talking to them and kind of resetting expectations about your entity partnership, because your EPs are going to not feel very secure if the place that's supposed to be hosting them while they're there can't even respond to a text or an email on time, right? So it's still your responsibility to make sure that communication is happening. And then understanding their job description and their impact. This is one of the most important things, because as a VP OGV last summer, there was a lot of misalignment or misunderstanding about what they'd actually be doing in their job description. So make sure that they read the job description on Expa or on Opportunities Portal, but also when they're interviewed, make sure they're prepared to ask questions about what their typical day would look like, or if like during the mornings, like what are they expected to do, what kind of outcomes or deliverables are they expected to deliver, who's going to hold them accountable. They want a professional volunteer experience. The nice thing about ISIC is that it's not as like daily structured every hour, this is what you will be doing, because you're volunteering, so you need room during the week for them to have free time and also explore the country. But they also need to understand that their job comes first. They can't just take Friday work off because they want to explore the country. If they have Saturday and Sunday off, that's when they vacation, right? So they also need to understand the expectations that the NGO abroad has for them. The last part of the customer flow, brand advocacy. They're a promoter. That means that exchange participant is already back into the country, or back in the US or wherever, back in the US. So they have completed their experience abroad. Completion is the first day after they get back to their home entity, right? So here, what happens here is that the leadership development model has been developed and reintegrated. So they should already be going through the reintegration process. And then hopefully, with your great EP manager and customer service that you provide them, they're going to be very proud of their experience, that they want to share it and tell other people, because word of mouth is one of the most powerful tools. But especially in ISIC, we've got over, 50% of a lot of the people at UGA who've gone abroad have come through word of mouth. But if you've got one person saying one bad thing about it, that does a lot more damage than you realize. So that's the important part, is that you really want all the EPs to be reintegrated back very well, and then also be proud enough of their experience to share. One idea that you can have here is that they share their experience at your reintegration seminar, whether it's having a presentation or showing a video that they made or some of the photos. You want them to start talking about their experience to ISICers so that they start feeling comfortable talking about it to their friends, their roommates, their classmates, etc. So their needs here are to understand their experience, which will help in their storytelling process to you at reintegration seminar, and then to also reflect on what has happened. This reflection part is very important, because that's really where part of the inner and outer journey comes from. Because they need to assess the kind of impact that they've made, and that reflection is really what will be the most value to them. So that is the customer flow, but what we're going to go through next is go through each step and talk about the specific nitty-gritty details that you have to do as EP manager, because we'll talk about it in a bit, but there are a lot of things that EP managers have to do, and if we miss this one step, it could really throw off the entire process. And that is why we're having this seminar, is because I don't want the little things to stop you all from achieving your goals and getting these high goals that you've set out for your LC. Also, just to preface, there is kind of a slow lag on my slide, so just give it like 5 seconds. Cool. So managing through the customer flow, we start off with the open, right? So an open is someone who's created an account on Opportunities portal. So if someone fills out a Google form or fills out a spreadsheet or a line paper at a tabling event, they have it opened. So make sure if you do that, that you send them an email that sends them instructions on how to open, or that you open for them with their information, right? Ideally, though, you want everyone to open at the info session at the tabling event, because having someone write down their name on like a piece of paper doesn't look as professional, and also like handwriting like might not look good, like all these little technicalities. The easiest thing to do is to just get them to open on the spot, because when they open, you get their email and you get their phone number. So if they don't also respond to your email, you can have a calling day or FTM and just call all the people that have been unresponsive opens. That way you can really clear out your pipeline, or move your pipeline forward. Ideally, that's what happens after calling day. So they're open, and for them to move to the applied status, they have to complete their profile, be marked as contacted, be assigned an EP manager, and apply to at least one opportunity. So I know you might be thinking these are so simple, but there's a lot of like nitty-gritty things that come across with this that might prevent an EP from actually being considered an applied stage, right? So as soon as an EP opens, they should be contacted with an email by like 24 hours. And as soon as they're contacted, please make sure they're contacted, because we definitely don't want to bother you and say like, hey, you have 18 EPs not contacted, when you have been contacting them, but you just haven't been marking them. I know it might seem a little silly, but it's just how we hold people accountable. Assign them an EP manager, unless, I would say, if you're a VP on this call, assign yourself as an EP manager, and then also assign your member who's their actual EP manager on Expa. This way you can always see their information and be able to edit things. But also know that if you're not assigned an EP manager, you don't have editing rights to that EP's profile. So if they have issues completing their profile, you can go in on Expa, go in and edit their profile with them right there. I'll talk about this in the tip section, but really Expa sometimes is just a lot more friendlier and less annoying as Opportunities portal, so it's very smart for you to have your first sit-down meeting with an EP and just complete the profile with them on Expa side, if that makes any sense. Lastly, obviously they have to apply to at least one opportunity, and ideally they apply within 24 hours of you contacting them, because in your first initial email with them, you should send that exact opportunity link that you are promoting, or maybe the opportunity links that you are promoting, so that way they can kind of decide which ones they want to apply to and then set up that meeting with you. So, applied. They've been assigned an EP manager and they've applied to at least one opportunity. This is moving them forward from here. Honestly, shouldn't be like as hard if you, in the marketing, in the EP recruitment phase, and in the open phase, really take this time to set the right expectations in your email and in your meetings. But applied. So for them to move to the accepted status, they have to be interviewed by the host entity. And once they're interviewed, make sure that you mark them also as interviewed on Expa. Like I said, if it's not on Expa, it's not official. That's just how we track things. And sometimes entities abroad might not be contacting your EP back as soon as possible, or as soon as you'd like, about them getting an interview. Ideally, this isn't the situation if you have a really good relationship with your entity partner. But who knows what could happen, right? So what I suggest is, as soon as you see that EP apply, email the opportunity manager abroad and be like, my EP's first last name applied to this opportunity, include the opportunity ID, which is the last 6 digits in the URL. Can you please interview within the next 48 weeks? We've had some issues with this in the past, and sending that small little paragraph email has honestly improved a lot of the interview rates that our EPs got, which will definitely help them move through the pipeline faster. During the interview, with Global Volunteer, most of your EPs will be accepted, especially if you have an entity partner relationship with them. So as soon as they're accepted by the entity abroad, what happens next?
No. If the E5 overcommits, I can come and shoot it.
Cool. So they've been accepted by the opportunity manager, and now they're pending their approval status. So the only way they can move to the approval stage is if they complete these steps. They pay the fee, and you pay the fee not on Opportunities Portal, not on Expa. We have a link. It's called payment.isicus.org. And that is how they pay their $500 fee and also sign a document that is kind of like a terms and agreement form for liability issues. They also have to sign the EP acceptance note. This EP acceptance note can be found under the Applications tab, where they see the opportunity they applied to. If they've been accepted, it'll like have an option for them, the button to click sign the AN, which is acceptance note. That's something the EP can only do on Opportunities Portal. You cannot do that on Expa.
Okay, I can kill the T-44.
So then they have to take their LDA. The LDA is the Leadership Development Assessment. That's also something that can only be done on Opportunities Portal, not on Expa. So they have to log into their Opportunities Portal and complete the LDA. The LDA should be a separate tab next to like their profile tab, their applications tab, etc.
I'm in the corner.
And then once they've paid, you can mark them as approved. Do not mark them as approved if they haven't paid. That's one of the biggest things I see people doing, and that means that you're letting your EP go, and if they don't pay, they could technically go like without paying at all, and that's definitely not what you want, because yes, getting the realization credit is great, but your LC also needs money. Don't piss off your VP Finance. But yeah, once you've approved on your side, the OP manager abroad also has to approve. So make sure you've got both of the approvals. And if both of the if you've done all of these things, there should be 3 green circles next to that EP's application. Like if you click on the EP's profile, click on their applications, there should be like green, they have paid, green, they've been approved by you, the EP manager, and green, they've been approved by the OP manager abroad. If you don't have 3 circles, something's wrong. The approval process is not finished. So, approved customer has been approved to the opportunity, is now undergoing preparation. This, in your timeline, approval to realization, is hopefully the longest processing time. That means, they're really just waiting to go abroad. Like maybe they're going abroad in May, and right now it's February. So this should be the longest time. But the open to the approval timeline hopefully all happens within a week or less, especially if you're promoting right about your entity projects. So yes, they move to the realized stage when the EP has been provided OPS, which is Outgoing Preparation Seminar, ISOS, which is International SOS, that is covered under their $500 program fee and is something that they can utilize if there's any emergency that they need. For example, if there is like a military coup or a natural disaster that happens in that country abroad while they're there, and they need to be like medevaced out of the country or find a U.S. embassy for safety or for first aid, this program is what's going to help them provide that. This here, you complete International SOS and STEP, which we'll talk about in a minute, once they've booked their flight. So make sure they have their flight itinerary and that they send it to you so you have a copy of that. And then they can complete International SOS and STEP, because it's going to ask for their travel dates, the location of their stay, and all that shenanigans. Also make sure you're communicating with the entity abroad, making sure they have a housing accommodation for your EP. Whether it's host family, ideally get the address, or hostel, also get the address, dorm. At either situation, you want to get the address. STEP is similar to International SOS, also mandatory. All these things are mandatory, but STEP is only if you are a U.S. citizen. If you are not a U.S. citizen, then you don't need to do it. STEP is very similar to International SOS. So if your EP is freaking out because they're not a U.S. citizen and they're like, but I want safety too, like International SOS is the same thing. STEP is just like mandated by the U.S. government also for U.S. citizens. So preparation of S&S. So S&S is the standards and satisfaction. There's 16 standards and satisfaction for exchange, and I've covered a lot of it throughout this presentation about all the steps that they need to do and all the things you need to provide them, like outgoing preparation seminar, health insurance, airplane logistics, and all shenanigans. Something that I forgot to include in this little box is also, obviously, they need international travel and health insurance. If your university provides international travel health insurance and they prefer that you use that, obviously you don't want to piss off your university and break that relationship with them, so use it. Honestly, the university health insurance it's a good coverage, or at least at UJ it is, and it's about the same price as oh gosh, Seven Corners. It's usually about $1.50 a day, and then they can choose the package. So if you don't have University International Travel and Health Insurance, what ISIC has a partnership with Seven Corners Insurance, and so Seven Corners Insurance also has like a Student Express package where it's also like about $1 a day, and they can choose how long they have that insurance. So if they're abroad for 60 days, the insurance will be about 60 to 70 bucks. This is not covered in the $500 program fee, so make sure that your EP knows that. ISOS and STEP and Outgoing Preparation Seminar are covered by the $500 program fee. Now, you've done all that work, they've gotten their flight either through booking by themselves, or if they need any financial friendly options for booking their flight, they can also consider STA Travel, where they let you do a payment plan, and like as long as you pay your full flight 7 days before your departure, you'll be good to go. So I know a lot of students can only like pay like $50 a week for or whatever, and it can also let you move around your flight dates without any repercussions. Like you can be flexible about when you fly. So they're prepared to go and they're finally realized abroad. The OP manager has to mark them as realized. Make sure that you are on that OP manager's ass about it, because if they don't mark them as realized, you will not get credit for realization. So make sure they do that. Check every day that they've been marked as realized. If not, consistently bother them on WhatsApp. So the last two phases are the value delivery and the brand advocacy stage. So value delivery, they realize they've started their first day of the opportunity. So, if your EP has realized 3 days before their internship starts, it's okay if the OP manager hasn't marked them as realized, because they technically just arrived a few days early to like get acclimated to the country. But make sure that the first day of their actual opportunity started, that they are marked unrealized on Expo. Cool. So they're abroad, and your job still doesn't end, because just because they're abroad and you're in a different country from them, yes, the ability for you to help them like physically is very limited, because you are probably separated by a lot of landmass or oceans. But it's still your job to make sure that they have a good experience. If something is wrong and they have issues with housing, or they have issues with the LC abroad, it's your responsibility to stay in contact with that LC abroad or their TN buddy. There's like an ISIC buddy program usually LCs abroad have. Make sure that they are working their asses off just like you are to make sure that your EP has a good experience. But there's also another side of this that requires balance. If your EP is being very nitpicky about everything, also that means it's your responsibility to revisit your expectations that you set throughout their meetings at Outgoing Preparation Seminar, that not everything is going to be perfect. That's like not everything is going to be scheduled for them. Not everyone's going to be able to view the city with them. There are going to be times where they have to navigate throughout the city by themselves. That's the purpose of ISIC, is for you to really be put in these challenging situations out of your comfort zone where you grow, right? Obviously, if they're not in a safe situation, that's too far out of the comfort zone, and you definitely want to step in and make sure they're okay, but there's that balance. So a realized customer becomes completed 1 day after the end date of the opportunity. So even if they're still abroad, like for 5 days afterwards traveling, they've already completed their opportunity abroad, so make sure that they're also marked as completed on Expo. Because if they're not marked as completed, we're going to get real worried about them, that they were realized and they never came back. And hopefully all your EPs come back or are safe, So the last stage, brand advocacy. This really does start at Reintegration Seminar. And Reintegration Seminar is a great way, like I said earlier, to help them share their story, but also to have them maybe join ISIC. This is where you talk to your VPTM and talk about, IXP, incorporate your exchange participants now as being members, because, they're going to be really great sellers and really understand ISIC and the product better if they've gone on exchange before. And it'll add them so much more credibility if they actually become EP managers and they went abroad. So that'd just be really, really cool. So you've done that, and that's not always enough, right? So providing excellent customer service. What Rosie always says is that the devil is in the details. So you're probably just like, what? So this hopefully is familiar with all of you. If not, I'm glad you're seeing it here today for the first time. This is an AIESEC Exchange Participant Checklist, something I created last semester and I updated it this semester with everything, so it should be good to go. This is something that is both for internal and external use, so you can definitely print this out and give it to your EP. I wrote it in their perspective when I said update your profile as completely as possible, etc., etc. So this is on the hub. If you haven't been to the hub before, over here, AIESECUSHub.org, or once I upload this presentation on the hub, you can click me and it'll take you to the hyperlink of this document that you can print out or just share with your EPs or your EP manager. So you definitely as an EP manager can use this too to make sure you're telling your EP all the right steps, right? So this includes all the checkpoints that I told you throughout this presentation. And it even has like recommendations. So like if this is your first passport or you need a renewal, your university usually provides a service. If your passport's going to expire within 6 months of your travel, you will not be able to go most likely, so you need to renew your passport. That's really important. Your passport cannot be expiring within 6 months of your exchange, or else most of your visas will not be granted to you if you need a visa. Cool. Hopefully this looks pretty and you all like it. Please use it. I created boxes so it's a little checklist. You can like print it out and have everyone check things off. And it even has the link here to International SOS because like I said, it is like paid for by their $500 program fee, and we have an account number with them. So now you don't have to memorize it. You can just tell your EP, copy and paste his account number when they have to sign in so that they don't have to pay. You don't want them to pay extra because then they're going to be sad and you don't want to deal with the sad EP. Okay. Almost there. Thank you for bearing with me on a Friday night. So the tips and tricks. That sounded kind of cool actually. Okay, so this one's super basic, but always respond to your EP and also their TN, so the AIESEC entity abroad, within 12 hours. I usually like to say 24 hours, but 12 hours like is a pretty reasonable time frame. So always respond to whatever communication method within 12 hours. This one has been an issue that I've been seeing with a lot of LCs, and even like last year too, but always give them a deadline to complete a step. I see a lot of LCs doing deadlines like big national priority deadlines, which is great, but always remember to give your EP deadlines to complete even some of the small steps. When you give them these kinds of deadlines, it makes AIESEC their plan B. Or their plan A, not their plan B. Oh gosh, no. We want to be their plan A. We're their plan A. We don't want to be their plan B, C, D, Z, whatever. You know, an issue that I ran into my first semesters of EP was that people would be like, I'm actually waiting to see if I get back from this internship in Atlanta or in New York, and then if not, then I'll join AIESEC, you know? And I'm just like, but choose us, you know? Like, we don't want to be the backup because we will provide an experience for them. And so by providing these deadlines to complete even the small little simple steps, or even the big deadline, you know, to apply by this date, it's like February 15th or whatever, it shows that we're professional, just like domestic internships or just like study abroad programs. So all these little details help make our brand more professional, because we definitely need more work on that end, I'll tell you that. Explain to the EP that the projects have a limited amount of spots. They do. Some projects you'll see on EXPA only has like one opportunity. If you have an entity partner and you have a specific project that you're promoting, they probably have like 50 to 100 spots, but know that they're not always all guaranteed to just you or your LC. If they have somebody else from other countries wanting to go, like they're going to get it too, because that LC abroad also wants their realization credit for IGV. Okay, so there are a limited amount of spots. Explain that they're always filling up, so that you want to apply as soon as possible, be interviewed as soon as possible, accept and complete all this paperwork and book their flight as soon as possible. It'll also be cheaper for them, and it also gives you more time to prepare them for their exchange abroad. Ensure that you're kept in the loop. Something I see a lot is that the TN abroad may reach out to the EP and have them moving forward throughout the process, and you didn't know. This all happened within 48 hours. Now your EP is super excited that they're going to Mauritius. Hopefully you never even let them apply to Mauritius, but man, that would not be good. So make sure that you stay in touch with your EP and ask them, have they been interviewed? Have they been whatever? And then if a TN's reaching out to them without CCing you or letting you know, have a conversation with that TN manager and just be like, please keep me in the loop, because it'll also make my customer service better for you, because I can mark them as approved faster so you can approve them, yada, yada, yada. Cool. If you have a lead that's not open, make an account for them and email them their profile information. This was something our LC did last year, because I'm not sure if any of you all were in ISIC or were in OGV, but like Opportunities Portal like crashed for 6 weeks, which was like one of the saddest moments of my life, honestly, because it just made everything hell. But we had a huge internship fair and study abroad fair that our LC was at, and we had 138 people show interest, but none of them could actually be opened in Opportunities Portal, so we had them fill out this Google form. So we had 138 people show interest in a Google form that was very similar to Opportunities Portal. You know, we asked their name, their email, their phone number, languages, etc., and none of them had actually opened. And after a week, I was like, okay, well, Opportunities Portal's back up. I emailed all of them these instructions for how to open, and only 10 did. I'm like, this is not the kind of conversion that I want. So what we did, or what marketing did, and then like OGV came out to help, was everyone's email. What we did was we created an Opportunities profile account for them, and then, you know, we have their email, so there's their username, and then we just used their first and last name as their password. And then when we emailed them, it was like, congrats, you have created an account on Opportunities Portal. Here's your username, here's your password, please complete the rest of your profile. And then if your Google form asks enough information, I think you can honestly fill out the profile for them, which goes on to my next bullet point, which is at the first meeting with an EP, help them fill out the profile and apply before the meeting ends. Expa is more like user-friendly sometimes instead of Opportunities Portal regarding filling out the profile. So if you can sit down with them and do it on our side, on Expa, it'll make things so much easier, because you can leave the meeting knowing that they've already completed their profile and then applied. And remember, they can't apply to an opportunity unless their entire profile is complete. And sometimes people don't want to do that, but they have to. So that's kind of one of the biggest barriers of why people's open to application conversion rates aren't as great or aren't as high as they want to be. It's because the EP is just like, I don't want to fill out all this information. So you can really provide that excellent customer service if you either sit down with them and help them fill it out, or if you fill it out for them by sending them like in the initial form, asking enough information that they'll you'll be able to complete the profile for them. The next bullet point I already touched on, but just remember to email the TN manager abroad to ensure that your EP is going to be interviewed by them within 24 and 48 hours, and also ask how their notification response time is going to go. Like, is the EP going to find out at the end of the call? Is the EP going to find out like 2 days later? Whatnot. So that way the EP kind of knows like what the timeline should be. And then lastly, at your EP meetings, make sure you're covering country-specific cultural information and logistics. So what I mean by that is make sure that you explain to them, you do some research and explain to them, you know, the transportation system in X country, or the certain cultural things that they should know, like maybe pointing with their index finger is considered rude, so maybe they need to point with their entire hand. Don't use their pinky, or et cetera, like all that country-specific cultural information. This way, if you cover all of these things at your EP, like one-on-one meetings or whatnot, makes it easier for you and your team to have an OPS that's more focused on the LDM, the leadership development model, rather than logistics. So a complaint that I usually see is that people don't show up to my outgoing preparation seminar because they don't have 6 hours on a Saturday to give up. Like, it's great if you have a 6-hour agenda OPS, or I know some countries abroad even have like a mini rocks, like a weekend conference as their outgoing preparation seminar. But I realized, like, me and my team and like our EPs, they really did not have time to go through a 6-hour OPS or even a weekend OPS. Like, I didn't have the money or time for that. So what we did was we just had a 2-hour OPS, and we offered it 3 dates, like on a Monday, on a Thursday, and on a Sunday. And on the Sunday one, we, like, some parents even showed up. Like, parents can go to OPS if you're comfortable with that, but it really helps you seem more professional, right? If you let the parents come. So we had it like on a Monday, on a Thursday, and on a Sunday of like 2 weeks before finals, so people wouldn't be freaking out and wouldn't have an excuse to not go to OPS.